that's a little bit about the novel. And since it is now time, I want to talk about the book that I have coming out in August. And it's coming out, I think, August 15th. Is that correct, Margie?
It's coming out August 17th. The reason I have my thing on, because there's going to be one more bell. We have a million bells here at school. But
you're at school?
I'm at work.
Okay, I'm in my studio. You can see, and
because since we didn't have to be at TLA live this year, like we are every year, we came to work.
Okay, yeah. So I'm gonna go ahead and hand it over to Margie so she can talk a little bit about this incredible book. And by the way, Trujillo, you know her as E.E. Trujillo, I know her as Charlene, has been talking about this quite a bit. She's in the book, Angela Cervantes. Let me just say something before I introduce Margie. The thing is, this book, I had not had a chance to read it until last night. And I gotta be honest with you, I was floored. I'm one of those people that buys literary, like short stories, you know, like Updike and all those people. This just blew me away. And so I'm really excited about it. So Margie Longoria, please introduce yourself and tell them about our book.
Yes, hi, my name is Margie Longoria. I'm a high school librarian here at Mission High School in Mission, Texas. So, and I also am the editor, curator of this book. I don't have a copy with me because they haven't sent me one. So, but this is the cover. It's called Living Beyond Borders, Growing Up Mexican in America. And it's an anthology of short stories, poems, essays. I even have a couple of comic strips in there, illustrations and stuff of young adult writers. And the way it's like a love letter from the Mexican American community to our young people. I wanted to do this anthology. I was an English teacher before I was a librarian. So I remember wanting to read books, and we would read a lot of books, but they don't give us a lot of time anymore to read books. So a lot of times we had to go with short stories. And I remember looking for stories that I wish would resonate with my kids a little bit more, my students that I taught. So there was that. Plus, there was a time a few years ago when we were being bashed. The Mexican American community was being bashed by our past administration, and I was just angry. And I thought to myself, they're saying all these terrible things about Mexican people. What can I do? I need to do something, right? But I'm just a little librarian from a little town in the border. What can I do? And I thought, you know what? Words are power. Books are power. And so I thought, I'm going to get a collection of short stories. I'm going to ask everybody that I know and see if they want to, do this project with me. And I was very, very fortunate that mostly everybody that I asked was like, yes, let's do this. And they submitted some of the best stories, poems,
no way.
Essays.
I think Angela's here. So Angela, could you unmute yourself and share the video? Is Angela Cervantes Angela's iPhone? Which I think
that's her.
Are you?
I was listening. Sorry.
Okay, so I got to tell you, no. You know, I told Margie this was going to be my 10 minutes, and so I called Margie and I said, look, I'd like you to stop by and speak, and I'm really excited about the book, but of course I can only speak about my story because that's what I read. And she said, no, let me send you a copy. And the first story I read was yours, and I was freaked out, Angela. Oh my God! I was reading it, and I yelled at my husband. I go, oh. This is just, it's literature. This and every story was that way. I couldn't believe it. Have you read it yet?
I have not. I can't wait to get my hands on it.
You're gonna be. I mean, I'm familiar with all of the writers, but they're stunning. And my mother has a story in there, and I was completely stunned by it. I got to tell you, you're in. I can't say enough about it. I think it's gonna be. It reminds me of the classics that I read all the time because I'm one of those weird classic people that likes that kind of stuff. So tell us a little bit, and Angela, about your story.
Oh, sure. So hi, everyone. Thank you for including me. Margie, it's so good to see you.
It's good to see you too.
Diosa de this libro. I love it so much. for including me. It was a joy to be part of it. And I submitted, I think, a story about a teenage girl who's kind of like in the principal's office.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Based on true life.
Man,
You know,
so-
being called to the office because someone has said something horrible to you and it's racist and you react, maybe not the best way, maybe not the way we all like to in hindsight. And as grown-ups, we think, oh, what was that crazy kid thinking? But, you know, gets called into the principal office. And then there's this sort of conversation between the student and the principal, just touching on Mexican-American identity, touching on words. You know, Margie, you just said that words are powerful, words have power. I think this is a little bit about that too. It touches on those themes of words being powerful and can be harmful and hurtful. So in brief, that's kind of what the story's all about.
Well, you know, I'm going to say a little bit because I forgot to tell people about my story. My short story turned out to be almost a little novella. It was pretty
I
fun.
loved it. I loved it.
But it is. And so let me just tell you a little bit about mine. I knew what I was going to write immediately. And I think I wrote it in one of my I have those moleskins that are like big. I don't know if well, obviously nobody would know this, but I write everything with quill in ink on newsprint. By the way, because newsprint is the best thing for your pens. But everything I write is handwritten, and I just started writing. And the story that my contribution is called "How to Live in a City of Ghosts." And the thing is, I come from a very different situation. My parents were from San Antonio, but I was born in South Carolina, Greenville, South Carolina, because my father was in the military. And then they moved to California, where my brother was born, to San Antonio. And so I grew up in Thailand. I grew up across the globe. And since I grew up in Thailand, I learned to speak Thai and write in Thai. And then we went to Japan and I learned to speak and write in Japanese. And so I didn't grow up the same way that a lot of people grew up in San Antonio. So when I came back, it was very different for me. But I really, really felt a closeness with a lot of the people, especially in San Antonio. But I see it from a little bit of a different perspective. So right away, as anyone who I was supposed to go to MIT. I was accepted to MIT. So right away, I did what everyone in that situation would do. I formed a rock band and went on tour, much to the dismay of my family, right? Because I was in college. And so when I look back at my life, I always look back at it. And I tell people I come from music. My husband he was a trumpet player he played with the Tommy Dorsey Orchestra and with a lot of the musicians and trumpeters back then. And so I always see myself as coming from that perspective. Is this kind of jiving with what you saw, Margie, in the story? You're muted, darling.
Yes, because I have crazy stuff going on. Yes, Carolyn's story. What I loved about her story is the title by itself, "Growing Up in a City of Ghosts." That's how I felt sometimes we feel as minorities, as ghosts, because people see past us. You know, a lot of times Mexicans are the housekeeper or the waiter, the waitress. Everybody just sees past people and sees past us. And that was one of the big themes in Carolyn's story that I just loved.
I'll say, I look around at people that live their lives with such nobility. And I mean, they are truly noble and brilliant and often educated to such a high degree, and they are not even seen. People walk past them like they don't exist. And they don't, it's incredible the grace they have in these kinds of situations. And I think it's sometimes it should be us that say, wow, we see you, we recognize you. And because I've seen, I think people assume that these people, well, they can't do any better. But these people are raising their families, and I'm not trying to put down any sort of occupation, but I am saying that we do have a lot of people that just are not seen, and it hurts me that we don't recognize them, especially since they're our blood, right? And doing this book Lineage shows me even more. I'm going to tell you, the reason I am writing about those two, you know, I thought I was really, because I have one more minute, I thought I was really, really cool because I remember when I discovered right away that my ancestors were Ferdinand II and Isabel, and also Montezuma. And I thought, wow, I wonder if everybody thinks I'm really cool because that lasted for about a week because I started finding it over and over and over again. And then I went and talked to people, the experts in this area, the Hispanic Genealogical Society. And it turns out the lowest estimate is 75% of all Hispanics in America. But most people think it's closer to 98% of all Hispanics in America are actually descendants of these two ladies, of all Hispanics in America.
Wow.
We only had 40,000 people come between the years of 1492 and 1750. 40,000, that's less than a small town. That makes up the entirety of the Hispanic. 250 years ago, it was what, 17, not even, you know, the Declaration of Independence, by the way, which my relatives signed. So so if you're Hispanic in this country at all, your relatives, we were here before them. We signed, and not just, I mean, I wanted people to see both sides, you know, and that's what I see in San Antonio. And that's why I wrote How to Exist in a City of Ghosts, because I did see them looking almost like ghosts, right? But I do want to say that we have not only been here, but we set it. Let me just say this. There's a period of almost 200 years that is just missing, and it's not missing because people didn't write. And here's the other thing about what I discovered. Between 1530 and I'd say even up until the early 1700s, everybody was literate. Everyone could read and write multiple languages, including the Native American, the people that were here, the indigenous people, and of course the women, because they could all read and write in French, Latin, Spanish, and Spanish was just, you know, taking off. They didn't really have grammar yet.